So, this season of Squid Games is like what Catching Fire was to the Hunger Games, if Catching Fire was so much worse than the Hunger Games, but also a mixture of the third Divergent movie, Allegiant, in the sense that that movie never needed a part 2. Well, this series never needed a season 2, or 3 for that matter. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you've most definitely heard about Netflix's worldwide, massively successful Korean TV show Squid Games. Well, season 2 came out last week, and boy, do I have some opinions. Just to point out the obvious, why did we need a season 2? I know why Netflix needed a season 2, they wanted money, but why did we, as the audience, need a season 2? Well, I mean, we didn't, but we got it. And like most series that received a sequel without actually needing one, Squid Games follows suit. It is kind of unnecessary and poorly done, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. What really bugged me about this season is that I don't think it needed a third one. I think everything could have been resolved within 1 or 2 extra episodes. There really wasn't much left they could explore considering what they did. Oh, and by the way, this review is very obviously not spoiler free, so if you want to watch this season before getting spoiled, I suggest you go do that and then come back here and see if we agree. So episode 1 starts with a 2-year time skip. 2 years have passed since the previous Squid Games, and guess what? Gi-hun's red hair at the end of last season, well, he doesn't sport it anymore. Why was he given red hair? Especially if they're just gonna abandon that like 10 seconds into the new season. Maybe it was just some symbolism that flew past me, like, I don't know, he dyed his head to represent the blood of his comrades spilled in the Squid Games. I don't really know. Moving on, Gi-hun has hired a bunch of people to track down the recruiter for Squid Games, aka the Dakji guy. You know, the guy in the subway who recruits people like that, playing that game with the red and blue cardboard and then slaps the person across the face? Yeah, that one. He's been trying to do that for 2 years without any success. Eventually, a pair finds the Dakji guy and tail him until Gi-hun is able to catch up. And they originally think that he's not actually a bad guy because they follow him into a park where he offers a bunch of homeless people either a lottery ticket or a piece of bread, or I think it's a steamed bun. Maybe it's just a mistranslation in the subtitles, but it definitely looked like a steamed bun, or just any kind of bun. But that's not super relevant. Point is, he offers people inside a park either a bread or a lottery ticket. And after the majority of people choose a lottery ticket, none of whom actually win anything, he dumps out the rest of the bread on the ground and stomps on it. And this is where the pair that tracked him down realize that he's kind of cuckoo. One of the homeless people go up to the Dakji guy and he's like, dude, why are you wasting all this good food? And the Dakji guy has some very circular reasoning in this scene. His philosophy is that he did not waste any of the food considering he bought it and gave these people an option between one or the other. It is actually the people that have wasted the food because they chose the other option over this one. Like what? If I buy a cupcake and a brownie from the store and offer my friend one or the other, let's say they pick the brownie and I throw the cupcake away, they did not waste the food, I wasted the food. Like, huh? He literally bought the same amount of lottery tickets as he did packages of bread, so he could have easily handed out one of each to every person that he saw, but he didn't, and then tries to gaslight them into thinking that they wasted it? This is some next level gaslighting. Like, you have to jump leaps and bounds to try to make that make sense. So the pair eventually confront the Dakji guy, but are overpowered and are gagged and strapped into a chair, and are forced to play a game of Russian roulette tied in with rock, paper, scissors -1, where you pretty much play rock, paper, scissors with both hands and then retract one hand, and the remaining hand from each player is like, you know, versus each other. Well, eventually one of the two is killed. So the main character finally arrives to this whole fiasco, and this is where the Dakji guy reveals his backstory. He was originally one of the guards in the Squid Games, and what solidified the idea that he liked this sort of work was when his dad got eliminated and he was forced to shoot him, and he didn't give a fuck. He's fucking psycho. Like, truly psycho. He doesn't think that any of the participants should be dignified by being called humans. He thinks that they're all garbage, and he also, like, killed his dad and liked it, so yeah. So the whole reason why Gi-hun tracked this guy down was that he could interrogate him or question him for some sort of information on who the leader of the Squid Games is, so that he could eventually put an end to it. And the Dakji guy does have this information, but instead of giving it up, or Gi-hun forcefully taking the information, the Dakji guy decides to play a game of Russian roulette between them two. Why? He had a gun, he could just shoot Gi-hun and, you know, get out of there. And the reverse applies too. Gi-hun also had a gun and could have shot him, and while he was dying, forced him to reveal this secret information. But no, they agreed to play a game of Russian roulette. But also, because there is no mediator, they have to pull the trigger on themselves, pretty much committing suicide. So there are 6 chambers to the gun, and after 5 of them go go off. By the way, only one chamber is loaded, and they didn't actually reset the gun after every fire, after every shot. I don't really know how these gun terms work. Point is that it's the Dakji guy's turn to shoot himself, and he for sure knows, it's 100% certain. Both people know that the chamber is loaded because all 5 other chambers went off and one of them was loaded. So by process of elimination, it's this one. Yeah, and instead of flipping the gun at Gihun and just like pow pow, he pow pows himself. Like I don't even get that. Why the fuck would you do that? Do you not want to live? Like, what is this? Did you want to be a goody two shoes and follow the rules? Like seriously, like just shoot him. You have the gun in your hand and it's loaded. Just shoot the guy. Don't kill yourself. Shoot the guy. Just do it. I do have to say, his acting was pretty freaking phenomenal. I could not anticipate what he was going to do next. And he was crazy and creepy and really, like, bravo to him. By the way, he's the same guy in Train to Busan. I don't know if you know that, but he's the father in Train to Busan. Alright, so that's the most of what happens in this episode. And honestly, this episode is probably one of the most interesting of the 7. Oh, actually, I completely forgot that cop from the first season who's trying to track down his brother and eventually finds him, but then gets shot and then lost in sea until he's, like, rescued. Well, yeah, his mission is to find his brother again, or rather the island where this all takes place. That's a side plot of this season that I also happen to have a lot of problems with, because there's a lot of problems with this season. So we get into episode 2. The main character and the cop team up to put an end to the Squid Games. Their plan is to attend a party, the invitation of which was in the pocket of the Dakji guy. So they go there and everything goes awry. They hired a bunch of military folk and mercenaries and other people, I guess, to help them track down the front man and like kill him, but it all goes awry. So Gihun's only option now is to rejoin the Squid Games. A large chunk of this episode is spent introducing a side character that I would talk about, only that I don't actually know her motives because they're not actually really explained in this season. So I won't even go into it because it seems kind of irrelevant considering how irrelevant her arc was. And that's episode 2 for you. So we get into episode 3 and it's revealed that these Squid Games are a little bit different than the last one. After every round, 100 million Korean won is added to the grand prize, which is determined by the amount of people eliminated. After each game, if the majority of people agree that they want to call it quits and leave, everyone is allowed to leave and quit, with the prize money being split equally among all remaining contestants. And they're allowed to vote on this after every round. So, I thought Gihun's new plan would be trying to convince everyone to leave Squid Games before it actually happens. I thought that he would try to convince everyone else to leave before, potentially getting killed. But no, for some reason he doesn't do that at all. Like, isn't this going against his entire mission? His mission being trying to prevent anyone from ever dying again in the Squid Game? But anyways, everyone enters the room of the first game, which is red light, green light, the exact same thing as it was in the first season. And only when they enter is when Gihun is like, yo, everyone, you should really listen to me. I know what I'm doing. If you don't want to get killed, do exactly as I say. And if I was a contestant, I would very much appreciate this information about how you'd be killed if you were eliminated, before the game actually starts. Anyways, my favorite character to this point dies. She's like the first to die in the game. I really liked her even though she only had like 5 lines. I mean, she was introduced in this episode and dies like right away. But she was very fun. She was a good combination of flirty and friendly and also a little bit smart, but not really because she died. So maybe she was just flirtatious and friendly. A lot of people die, but they also come up with a strategy to ensure that a lot of people survive, which is that everyone does a single file so that people in the back of the file, they're able to move a bit if need be because the doll's motion sensors only pick up motion straight across her. Now, one person actually takes advantage of this tactic to eliminate a few people, which is my boy Thanos. As everyone is standing single file when the doll is looking at them, he actually pushes a few people, which causes them to obviously move and fall down, inevitably leaving them to get shot. Now, I like Thanos not because of his character, but because of his career as a singer. He was a rapper in a really influential K-pop group called Big Bang, and he put out these bangers. And this. I do also find it amusing how Thanos is a rapper in this TV series, which mirrors his real-life career because he was a rapper in real life as well, and he's kind of a junkie in this series, which is sort of similar to his whole marijuana controversy in South Korea. They're very strict on drugs there, and he received a lot of backlash for smoking marijuana. I feel like his whole story this season, aside from joining the death game part, is just a parody on his previous idol life, which, as a fan of Top or Thanos, I'm not mad about. So the first game ends, and continuing on to other games is put to a vote. And this kind of enforces the reason why I don't like people, because the majority of people vote to continue, even though they now know the stakes of the game, that they're probably gonna die. They still choose to continue and also put the people who don't want to continue at risk of death. I'd be so fucking pissed. The people who want to continue aren't the people I would want to be stuck in a room with. They're kind of crazy. No, wait, they are crazy. There's also a big reveal in this episode. 001 is Tom, the front man. Yeah. So now we're at episode 4 where we get to the second game. We're led to believe that it's the same Dalgona game as it was last season, but it turns out that it was all a big dream that Gihun had. And that's the second time this fake out tactic was used in this season, which really annoys me because you think something very frightening and intense is going to happen, but it turns out that it was just a nightmare. How uninspiring is that? I never liked that method of storytelling because, quite frankly, it's not a very good one. Like, you should have just put him riding on a unicorn and, battling Godzilla because you could, just for the sake of it. It's a dream anyway, so stick that in there and make him wake up too. So, the second game is actually 5 mini games that make up a larger game. It's this 5-legged tied race. People are put into groups of 5 people and their feet are tied together and they have to race around a track. And after each couple of steps, they have to complete a minigame. And if you successfully complete all 5 minigames and cross the finish line, you live. Now, I have 2 big problems with this episode and this game choice in general, one of which, to describe the rules of every game and pretty much build tension, they use an irrelevant group that end up getting killed because they're not able to complete it. But introducing the games through this team that you never see again or you never really saw beforehand takes up quite a big chunk of the episode. And just for them to die at the end, I don't see why they couldn't have done this with any of the other characters. By the way, there are 15 people we follow this season. There are 15 characters. There's like a main character, Gi-hun, and there's a bunch of supporting characters. So you easily could have taken one group of 5 that we have a slight connection with, because honestly, I don't feel the same connections with these characters as I did with any characters from season 1. You could have introduced this game with any of those groups of 5 and, killed all of them because they didn't succeed. And it would have been slightly more impactful than this random group dying. Like, there is no Ali of the season. There is no Sebyuk of the season. I think that's her name. There is no 240 of the season. By the way, I raided my sister's closet and her room to film this. The only character I actually care about is the old mom because she's old and frail, not even because she has some great character development. The only reason I actually care about her is because I have a mom and I would never want to see her in that situation. So they very easily could have taken one of the 3 groups we follow this season, their group of 5, and shot them, do this whole introduction of this round with them, and I think it would have made it slightly better, but not even that much, because you could choose any of the 3 groups of people and I wouldn't care. Sorry. Not sorry. Sorry. Like, I genuinely don't care if the main cast dies. Whereas in season 1, I didn't want Sebyuk to die, I didn't want 240 to die, and I didn't want Ali to die. Oh, and also that plot of the cop trying to find the island where the Squid Games take place, well, that's completely pushed to the side. You get 5 minutes of that pretty much every episode, and spoiler alert, it doesn't get anywhere. By the end of the season, they still haven't found the island. In this episode, we also find out that when players get eliminated, the guards don't actually shoot them to kill them. They shoot them to, severely injure them, but they want them alive so that they could harvest their organs. Now, one of the guards, whose backstory takes up the majority of episode 2, for some reason doesn't want the contestants to remain alive, so she delivers the killing blow to everyone that's left alive. And she's sort of reprimanded by the officer or the manager, but not really. She pretty much enters his office and he's like, yo, stop killing people. We need them alive because we need to take their organs out and give them to people. And she's like, no, fuck you, I'll do whatever I want. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess. I really don't get why he didn't reprimand her. Not even a slap on the wrist, just like, you stop it. Oh, you won't? Okay, well, whatever. We get into episode 5. Alliances are betrayed. Some people die. That son betrayed his mom. He's such a bum. I hate him. The only character I actually care about, aside from the mom, is the number 380. And we don't even know her backstory. The only reason why I like her personally is because she carries herself really coolly. Carries herself really coolly? Cool. And I know that's a very superficial reason to like someone, but I mean, we don't have any other reason to like anyone else. So I had to make the most of what I got. I did like the trans character because she's very righteous and I am drawn towards those sorts of people. I am very much less drawn to people like Thanos than I am to more righteous, just people. I'm not saying that Thanos is a bad character. He's actually a really good character. You know a lot about him. He's very fun. He's kind of crazy. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people like him. I'm just not one of those people. But yeah, since the trans person betrayed some people, specifically the old mom, she's kind of dead to me. In this episode, we do get backstories from a lot of the characters. However, everyone's motives is really just that they need money for themselves. Like, literally 3 or 4 of the 15 people we follow are there because they lost money through investing in cryptocurrency. Like, they're there for the exact same reasons. Could the writers not just be a tad bit more original? I mean, obviously people are there for the money, that's the whole reason of the Squid Game, but nobody's backstory made me feel sorry for them, because a lot of people are just there because of their dumb decisions. Like, the writers could have went so many different directions with a lot of the characters. This was the main way to get us, the viewers, to sympathize with the characters, and they really did not take advantage of that whatsoever. Just do something more impactful successful than 3 of them losing all their money due to cryptocurrency. I don't know if they were trying to be funny or something, this was a commentary on cryptocurrency and how it was just really weird and just came and went. Meme coins, for example, like Dogecoin, I guess this is a commentary on that, which is a little humorous, but also like, who gives a fuck? So we get into the 6th episode, and finally, some people from the main crews die. One of them was very obviously the least main of the main 15 people. She was just there, she spoke a little, but we really didn't know anything about her. The most she did was cry when the majority voted to continue the games. I couldn't even tell you her name nor her number because she was just that insignificant. What I really loved about this episode was the game. I think it's my favorite game from any of the 2 seasons. Quick rundown: the contestants are put on a rotating platform, and after a certain number of seconds, the broadcaster will broadcast a number, and the contestants have to form groups of that number and enter rooms to ensure their safety. People who do not group up in the correct amount of numbers and who do not make it to a room, get shot. It's pretty intense, it's pretty cool. The reason I like this game is because I think that I would enjoy playing it, obviously without the death aspect. No, it just seemed fun. This is the game where one of those aforementioned characters die. 'Twas sad, but, who gives a fuck? I don't even know your name. I don't even know your number. I don't even know anything about you, so I'm not going to cry over you. If you don't watch any of this season, I suggest you just watch this episode because the game itself is just very entertaining. Anyways, the game ends, allegiances change. Now the vote to continue the rest of the Squid Games is 50-50. Thanos, while in the washroom, kind of does this whole prison ride thing. Yeah, quite a few people die, including himself, with a fork. I don't like that. I don't like forks and like knives. I honestly prefer knives to forks. I don't know, it's the prongs or something. It's just icky. So yeah, a few people died there, which is a big turning point for the next episode and the finale of Squid Game Season 2. So episode 7 opens up to a very stabby opening. Stabbing with a fork and stab, stab, stab. And a lot of stabbing goes on in this episode. There's also a plot twist. The sailor captain that rescued the cop in the first season, who's also leading the expedition, or not leading the expedition, but captaining the captaining, who was the captain of the boat on the expedition to find the islands in which the Squid Games take place. He's actually evil. And it honestly wasn't a plot twist because there was some very bad foreshadowing beforehand that made it very obvious that he was evil. So this big reveal wasn't actually a big reveal, to me at least. I don't think you needed some kind of genius Mensa level IQ to come to the conclusion that he was evil. And because of that, the big reveal felt really flat. And the riot in the washrooms, well, that persists back to the living quarters. So a lot of people die. One of which is that cool character I was talking about, 280 or 380 or something. The character I liked just because she looked cool. Yeah, she dies here. Bummer, but whatever. Now, Gi-hun and his little posse, they take advantage of this whole scenario. When the guards enter, they kind of overpower the guards, take their guns, and shoot all the guards, and they want to start this whole revolt in the final episode. They want to find the frontman, and they want to kill him and everyone else involved in Squid Games. So that's what they try to do, but they ultimately fail because a couple of them end up dying, and Gi-hun ends up getting subdued. I do want to give a shout out to that guy at around minute 30 of this episode, just firing the gun aimlessly. That is 100% how I would shoot a gun if I was given a gun. I would 100,000% be hiding behind this kind of pillar like he was doing and just aiming my gun to the back of me and just without looking at where I'm aiming, just firing the gun exactly like he did. Like, bravo on this scene. That was actually the funniest part of the season. It's obviously meant to be comedic, and it was hilarious. So yeah, the season ends with 001 going back into his frontman position. Gi-hun still not realizing that 001 is the frontman, and it really ends with Gi-hun being pinned to the floor and just cuts to black, and I have so many problems with this. I hate how every single thing in this season that was introduced, or even stuff that was brought on over from season 1, the entire reason for season 2 existing, which is how Gi-hun wants to put an end to the Squid Games by, killing the frontman or just doing something. Nothing is resolved in this season. The Squid Games haven't even ended because the revolt kind of put a pause to that. The cop and his military people, they never actually find the island on which the Squid Games take place. Nothing gets resolved. And not only that, just the way it ends, panning to black while getting pinned down, there is no reason for it to end that way. It doesn't feel like the ending of the season. It feels like the episode was cut off halfway and we have to wait now an extra year to find out what happens. It was completely unnecessary, and it's something that a lot of shows do, which I absolutely despise. Nothing got accomplished this season, and that ending just made it even more infuriating. The big finale is pretty much people shooting guns for like 30 minutes. The ending of this episode would have been fine if it wasn't the ending of the season. If there was another episode or two afterwards, then I would have been totally fine with episode 7 ending the way it did. But the fact that it's the ending of the season, there is no conclusion, there is no resolution, there is no nothing. It just really annoys me. Gi-hun wasn't even able to prevent everyone from dying. I thought that was the whole point of this. The original point was to stop the Squid Games from commencing, but then afterwards, wasn't it to save everyone from dying? To help everyone not die? I don't even understand his motives anymore. Like, what is he trying to do? Yeah, he's trying to kill the front man, he's trying to kill all these guards, he's trying to put an end through that, but what about saving all the other contestants? Is that not a priority? I don't understand why his priorities shifted. Because it's very clear, before he entered the Squid Games, his priority was that nobody would die. But now it almost seems like he doesn't even care that other people die. The games, only being 3 of them, was a little less inspiring than last season. I mean, the first one was the exact same as last season, it was just recycled. Don't get me wrong, it's a cool game and I liked it, but it's exactly the same one as season 1. The second round, which is combining 5 minigames into one, I feel like they wanted to show Korean culture, which is great, do that. I really enjoy learning about other cultures, but the way they executed left a lot to be desired. I feel like they kind of wanted to show everything without having much time to do it, and because of that, I don't see myself wanting to play really any of those games. I think between both seasons, that was the least iconic, least memorable game. Or games, I guess, since there were 5 of them. But on the flip side, the season also had my favorite game, which was the merry-go-round one kind of thing, where they formed into groups and hid into rooms. That was great, but obviously it wasn't enough to carry the season. I do feel like this season is social commentary about how greedy humans are by nature. A lot of people voted to continue the games at the expense of other people, at the expense of literal death. And that is very interesting, it's just that it wasn't executed well. I do like 001's motives, or at least what I believe to be his motives. I think he decided to join the Squid Games and stick close to Gi-hun because he wants to understand why Gi-hun thinks he's this kind of savior, why he's like this kind of Naruto, power of friendship, of Nakama and all of this, why he thinks he could pretty much save everyone. And I mean, Gi-hun does ultimately fail, so 001 is proven right. This season just doesn't follow through, it just doesn't go deep enough in what they could have done. Now, I'm not a scriptwriter, and obviously I'm just some random person on the internet, but I do wish that they really just committed to this season and just made it a little bit more intense. Because the season does have flashes of brilliance. The first episode was phenomenal. The acting is great. The concept is cool, although unnecessary. I just think that it was poor execution all around. They really should have left this trend of a female lead, albeit this dude is very obviously male, overthrowing this corrupt regime in this sort of dystopia back in the 2010s. Think The Hunger Games, Divergent, The Fifth Wave, The Darkest Minds, I think it was called. We genuinely did not need that revival through Squid Games. I didn't care for the characters really at all. I wish that the rules of this season applied to the rules of last season, meaning that after every game, if the majority of people want to quit, then they're allowed to leave. Because last season, I wanted a lot of people to live and they all died, and this season, I don't care if anyone dies and they almost all live. Seriously, 2 people, you can find maybe 2.5 if you count the girl who dies in the first 10 seconds of the red light, green light game. And I guess we're supposed to care about them, and it's supposed to be impactful, but it really wasn't. I don't think anyone in this season is memorable. There is no Ali, there is no Sebyuk, there is no 240. I just did not feel emotionally attached to everyone save one person, that one person only being emotionally attached to because of my personal connections to a real life, meaning I only cared about the mom. And yeah, quite a few people die along with some supporting characters, so despite quite a few people dying, it's not through betrayal like it was in the first season, which really made it memorable. It's really just because they got shot via senseless killing, which at its core is the concept of Squid Game, but season 1 made it a lot more interesting by allowing us to connect with characters. And that's obviously a reason why season 1 was so good. People cried when Ali died, people cried when Sebyuk died, people cried when 240 died. I'd be a little surprised if people cried because any of the characters died in this season. Alright, am I excited for season 3? Sort of. Am I less excited than season 2? Most definitely. Will I still be watching it? Yeah, I want to see where it'll go. Although I don't know how they're going to make an entire season out of what's left of the story. Anyways, because I don't want this video to be 30 minutes long or something, that's the video. So let me know what you thought in the comments of this season of Squid Games.
Post-filming Araan here, I think that Squid Games should have been an anthology series, where every season is unrelated to the other, focusing on different characters and events and stuff, only bound together by a central theme. It would have kept the same intrigue as the original season had they taken this route rather than dragging out a story into 3 seasons when I don't think it needed it. It really should have just been Season 2 Part A and Part B.
Anyways, because I don't want this video to be like 30 minutes plus, I think I'll end it here. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this season of Squid Games and if you're excited for the next one. Bye!